Look at this, I got the brand new Google Pixel 10 Pro XL in my hands and I'm excited to play with it, but the internet maybe isn't sharing that excitement. They're worried that this is a very incremental update. Is this hiding some very cool surprises, or is this the least improved phone in Google Pixel history? We're gonna find out. I'm Chris Niccolls, this is PetaPixel. What secrets does this phone hold?
Hey everyone, it's Jordan here, and remember, as Chris talks about all of the fancy AI features on the new Google Pixel, eventually you're going to need to pony up for a subscription to get access to a lot of those features, and I can't stand just constantly getting nickeled and dimed on all of these different subscription services, and that's why I'm a huge fan of Audio. Not only because they have library of rights-free music with a whole bunch of great catchy tunes from real artists, but with our special offer code, you can actually get lifetime access to this entire music library, not for the regular $500, but for $199. That's $300 off. And if you're making videos, you're also going to need access to some sound effects, all kinds of whooshes and crashes. If you sign up for that lifetime music access, then you get $50 off lifetime access to Audio's entire sound effects library, from $199 down to $149. Again, lifetime access, everything that they have in their constantly expanding library of sound effects. Make sure you use coupon code PetaPixel199 at checkout, and thank you, Audio, for sponsoring this episode.
Okay, so perhaps the updates are largely incremental, but there is some new stuff here that I want to talk about. So let me explain before we go further into the video. This is not a comprehensive smartphone review. I really like to look at these as creative tools, what's improved for photography and videography specifically. And I am going to talk a little bit about what's changed since the Google Pixel 9 Pro series, but I don't want to go over a lot of stuff that's already existing. I mean, this still has a great panorama mode. It's got an Add Me feature, which is cool, but we've seen that before. Great night sight mode. I mean, these are things that Google's always done well. What are the interesting changes that we have now on this phone? And as well, I'm not going to be comparing this to the other current crop of phones that are available now. I mean, Google's first out of the gate, but we always like to wait until we've seen what Samsung offers, what Apple offers, and then we tend to do more of a roundup of all those phones together. So let's get into the actual changes to the hardware on this phone. So normally when you get a new iteration of a smartphone, you're going to assume things like it's lighter, faster, stronger. This phone may be faster and stronger, but it's actually not lighter. It's actually gone a little bit heavier, only about 10 grams. But both my wife and Jordan's wife held both the Pixel 9 Pro XL and the 10 Pro XL in their hands together, and they commented, this one's actually heavier. It just kind of feels a little bit bigger and bulkier. We have basically the exact same screen dimensions though. The Pro 10 is 6.3 inch screen. The Pro 10 XL is a 6.8 inch screen. So it matches exactly what we had with the 9 Pro series. Screen resolution is the same as well, but there is an improvement to brightness. So the 9 Pro series of phones, we're looking at about 2,000 nits of brightness, going up to 3,000 max brightness. These are about 10% better. This is 2,200 nits, and then 3,300 of max peak brightness. So we're getting a little bit more brightness. That's always handy to have when you're on sunny days like today. And look at this, what's going on here? Well, one major change, and it's about time, is that Google has now incorporated their version of MagSafe. They call it Pixel Snap. This is all kind of universal Qi-based technology, but this is a really nice addition that we've all been taking for granted on other phones for years. And this is not case dependent. This is integrated into the phone, so it lets you use handy little accessories like this. I've confirmed that my Apple MagSafe charger, for example, does charge this phone, so you can use this, mix and match it with lots of accessories that are on the market. Google is going to advertise their own Pixel Snap accessories that'll say made for Google, but so far I have not encountered any incompatibility issues. So I have my pet deer here. She's going to stick around for the camera hardware talk and just chill. You want to hear about the cameras? That's how deer say yes. So let's talk about the hardware here. I mean, yeah, is it exciting? Not really, because we've seen this before. We basically have the exact same 3 cameras, the exact same camera bar that we had on the Google Pixel 9 Pro series. Same equivalent focal lengths, same aperture, same lenses, but that's not necessarily a bad thing if you consider that we've always ranked the Google hardware quite high. But I am absolutely convinced that we've reached a plateau with a lot of the lenses, sensors, and hardware they're experiencing, at least in North America. We're seeing a lot of the same stuff across all the brands. I mean, Apple's guilty of this, Samsung's guilty of this. We're getting very incremental minor changes. Maybe a camera goes from 12 megapixels to 48 megapixels, or we don't see any change changes at all, for example, in here, or just certain tweaks, and we're still in that phase. Where the manufacturers are pushing is when it comes to AI. Now, if you talk to the manufacturers themselves, they consider AI and processing power and the camera's hardware as all one component. I don't necessarily buy it. I mean, I feel like we are reaching a plateau with the hardware, so are these AI changes and are these software changes absolutely relevant? Okay, so one feature that's getting a lot of attention is Google's claim now that their phone can achieve up to 100 times zoom using their ProRes AI technology. First off, this drives Jordan crazy because ProRes is, basically universally known as a common video record format, and he's finding it very confusing. But also, is it any good? Well, you know that we've got ducks back here, and if I'm into anything, it's duck butt. I love duck butt. I love me some duck butt. So why not get some shots here? 5 times zoom here, 50 megapixels. This is the standard telephoto camera. And then we can go to 10 times or even 20 times. And this is using Google's Super Res technology, where it's basically, upscaling, replacing the resolution, but we're still getting that extra zoom range. They claim that 10 times is giving us optical quality without any real loss. I mean, it's fine for Instagram use and stuff like that, but then we go to the 100 times here. Now this, you have to switch out of 50 megapixel mode, go to 12 megapixel mode. It then unlocks this, and I've tried a few different tests and the results vary. Like on that duck's butt, that's actually pretty good. If you look at the raw file, it looks like absolute trash, but with it resed up with the AI, it looks like a duck's butt. And I would probably be able to use that on Instagram and probably get away with it. I mean, obviously there's clear losses of quality in the water and stuff like that, but I could see how someone might find this useful. But there are some other situations we tested it, like with people's faces and stuff, where the detail loss is just so extreme, and you get weird hard edges where their chin meets the background and stuff like that, and it just looks odd. So I would take it with a grain of salt. In some situations it can be useful. It certainly gives you a very dramatic look to the telephoto reach, but it doesn't always do a great result. One thing I do really appreciate though is the picture within picture, wider field of view with the yellow frame showing you your composition. That's actually really helpful to keep that extreme telephoto on target. But I wanted to delve further into what's going on with these features like this 100 times zoom, and it's not really doing an enhancement of the detail that's there. It's actually using AI to figure out or replace a lot of the structures that might be missing. And so we want to do some tests here. So again, Google apparently has a huge gallery of duck butts that it can pull from, because I thought it did a really good job there. But we also wanted to test it with text and signs. So if the sign has clear text, as you can see here, very legible, it's easy, it enhances it, lots of contrast, actually does a great job, it looks very convincing. But we also had another sign here with smaller lettering, different colors and stuff like that, and we got it right to the cusp where I could read attention dog owners. And then when the AI tries to replace it, it basically does its best guess, but where it cannot read the detail, it just has to make stuff up. So we get attention dog, and then just a whole bunch of weird text that doesn't make any sense, it's not readable. So what's going on here is that it's just trying to pull AI information and then replace it with a best guess. So it's not enhancement, it is actually AI replacement. And so that brings up a whole bunch of questions. So however you feel about AI modifying your images and the validity of that, I think we can see that there are still some situations where it just can't handle it, it makes mistakes, and others where it actually does a really good job of enhancing it. Some of these shots I actually don't mind with that extra telephoto range. But however you feel about it, I do have to mention this about Google. It's very commendable and brave of them to be part of the C2PA content authenticity movement. And I think that's fantastic. It means that any of the photos that I do take will be marked appropriately as being AI edited, and I can then take these, for example, raw files in or images in, and I can see all of the stuff that's been adjusted or edited with them. That's pretty cool to have that sort of transparency, and especially going forward, if we're going to start posting this stuff and we're having a hard time figuring out what's real and what's not, it's nice to know that we have something we can verify. So Jordan, this is the same frame that I just shot. Is the composition good?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, but did you put the tree like rule of thirds a little bit more?
It's like right at the edge.
Is the horizon like in level, or is it should be lower in the plane maybe?
Yeah, it's
like
pretty close to the top.
Okay, and are you using the foreground of like the grass and myself as like a part of the composition?
No, your feet are cut off.
Okay, well, like I'm not trying to give you a hard time. This is what Camera Coach just suggested to me, taking these shots on the phone, because Camera Coach is this really interesting thing. Now at first I was like, this, okay? I've been a photographer for 2 decades. I don't need somebody telling me how to take better photos. But now that I've played with it, it's actually quite interesting. So if you choose to do it, you can, instead of taking a photo, push the camera coach button with your composition. It's gonna look at the scene and it's gonna analyze it and come up with some interesting suggestions. And it did just that, as you can see. I mean, it says, okay, this tree, don't have it so far to the left, maybe put it on a rule of thirds, maybe get a little bit lower and incorporate some of this foreground. And, you know, consider the fact that your horizon shouldn't be right in the center. And this is all good basic stuff. So far, the tips I've seen have been very reasonable. And you can also have it do different things. When you bring up a photo, you can say, well, what am I most interested in? Do I want the reflections and the tree, or just the reflections? I mean, it's smart enough to look at the whole scene and make suggestions on different photographs that you could pull out of that area. I think this is great for experienced photographers to just have a reminder of things they may have forgotten, and fantastic for people just starting out to just get better photos, or just make sure they're using the phone controls properly. Now let's talk about editing your photos. This is something we played with quite a bit on the Google 9 Pro series. And it's fun. I mean, this is basically using AI generation. You can add things to the sky. You can change backgrounds. You can modify or erase certain aspects. And again, this is nothing new. We've had this before on previous Google models as well. We're seeing this a lot on the other smartphones. So I thought I would do a little bit of a test here. So first off, you know, I wanted to make some minor changes to my friend Jordan, just to make him a little bit more in line with, you know, my like hobbies and philosophical beliefs and things like that. You know, not the Jordan I have, but the Jordan I've always wanted. So look at this. I can move him and make him larger in the frame. Very simple, very tuned. There's a little bit of haloing around him. He doesn't quite cut into the trees properly, but it's not bad. But then I'm like, you know what? Let's add some prompts. Let's generate some AI stuff. And with a little bit of finagling, I was able to select the space around his hand and say, have this person like holding a fish in their hand. And look, there we go. Jordan's got this nice trout on a stringer, really well done. And then I wanted to add a pile of fish at the bottom, you know, because he's such a powerful angler. He's just so successful at hauling fish out, apparently with no fishing rod, with his teeth, I guess. It's really manly. So there you go. We have our generated pile of fish at the bottom here, and it's all looking good. You know, maybe enhance the contrast a bit, warm it up. So suffice to say, I don't get the Jordan I want. I'm going to keep the Jordan that I have. He's got a lot of redeeming qualities. And hopefully this also showed you what you are capable of doing here in the editing process. But there's another feature that Google's also incorporated, and this is called Ask Photos for Help, basically. If I enable this, I can ask the phone with my voice, basically editing prompts. I can say, could you brighten this up? Could you maybe take this away? Could you move this? And that's really interesting, I assume, because we can't play with it. If you live in Texas, Illinois, or Canada, as of yet, I'm not able to access the thing, but I'm sure that will be opened up in the future, or we could drive through ours to the Montana border and explain to the border guards we simply want to cross so we can try out Ask Photos on this new Google phone. I don't know how well that would play. Okay, so another feature that we always like to talk about is portrait mode on these smartphones, and the Google Pixel 9 Pro actually performed pretty poorly in this regard compared to the other North American phones. So I thought I would do another test here on the latest Pixel 10 Pro. So I took a picture of my daughter. She's got wild, wiry hair. It's all over the place. It's actually a very challenging result. And I shot this on both the 9 Pro and then the 10 Pro. And what you can see here is actually quite a dramatic difference. I really see a lot of improvement. We're not getting that strange banding on the side of her head. Like, it's got a much more natural transition, and you can see a lot of those hairs in the background are present but out of focus, as they should be. So I would say that the Pixel 10 Pro has actually vastly improved their portrait capabilities, and that's a really nice feature to see updated.
All right, it's Jordan to talk about the video capabilities on the Google Pixel 10 Pro that's filming me right now in 4K 24p with the main camera, and that is the big upgrade for video this year, as the main camera now has more advanced stabilization on it, and it does actually look pretty good. But when I was looking through the rest of the spec list, I'm like, is that it? I don't see video mentioned anywhere. And yeah, that's it. We're still not seeing 4K 60 with HDR. If you want to record 8K, you're still going to have to send that up to the cloud and get it boosted in order to get that increased resolution. Same kind of thing with your night shot in video mode. I mean, basically video is left as is. And last year when we did our roundup of all the different North American smartphones, unfortunately the Pixel came in last, and I think that's going to be the case again this year.
So back in the office, we've had a chance to take some samples and have a look at them and evaluate some of the stuff here and do a raw push, for example. So let's just talk about some of my final thoughts before we get into our conclusion here on this phone. The 5x zoom, I do want to talk about this. I mean, it does focus a little bit closer. We wanted to test that. And as you can see here, if you're specifically using the 5x lens, this means turning off auto lens switching. This means manually selecting and forcing the 5x lens. You can see that it focuses just with a slightly tighter frame than the 9 Pro does. However, if you put it into manual focus and go to the minimum focus, the 5x zoom can actually get quite a bit closer if you want to do some sort of macro stuff with a good amount of working distance. So yes, that is absolutely cool. But you're only going to notice that if you do force a specific 5x lens and then do that manual focusing. For most people, they're going to probably leave this in auto lens switching, and then they're going to leave this in just auto focusing. And in that regard, it's going to combine data from other cameras. You're going to get quite a bit closer than you would normally be able to physically, and you're going to get really good macro. And so in terms of like maximum macro capability, I would say both the 9 and the 10 Pro cameras are essentially the same. Here you can see a push of a RAW file, and this is basically what we've seen before. I mean, we're getting very similar results to the Pixel 9 Pro series. You get quite a bit of noise pretty early on because they're just not big sensors, but you do have some room to push and pull, but it's very similar experience to what we had before. And you know, if we really talk about these cameras in general, my final thoughts are it is a very similar experience to what we had before. Remember, we are just talking about these cameras in terms of photo and video capabilities. Does the Pixel 10 Pro give you a better processor? Does it unlock fantastic, text-to-speech capabilities? Does it have lots of AI tools that will either make your life feel far more convenient or far more invaded? That's completely up to you and beyond the scope of what we want to talk about here. But clearly the push for improvements is not hardware so much as it is software and AI technology. When it comes to photography, things like having this 100x zoom, I'm kind of mixed on it because in one way I'm like, look, it actually does give you a noticeable improvement in detail for Instagram use, for example. I could see casual users actually really enjoying this. With all the cameras now largely going down to a 5x optical zoom, we feel like we've lost along those longer ranges, and this does legitimately give you some detail back. However, while in some cases it's pulling a Miami CSI where it's just kind of like, enhance this boom and it actually brings some good detail, it still kind of looks like garbage up close. I mean, you're not really going to want to use these files for anything beyond social media uses. And at worst, what it does is actually replace aspects of your photo with AI generated imagery, which then really blurs the line. I mean, for me, actually, it doesn't blur the line. I don't like it. I really don't want to take a photo of something and have it guess what that is and then replace it with some other creation. So I don't like that aspect of it, and I don't feel like I would use it in any situation beyond the most casual use cases. So it's always nice to see little improvements to processing speed or to portrait mode or to stabilizers. I mean, these are all good moves, but they're very minor differences. And I think that's really just the market that we exist in nowadays. With smartphones having these annual release cycles, they've got a lot of irons in the fire. There's lots of technology they're working on, but it's just little things here, little things there. It's become a gradual slope that they're climbing rather than large steps that they're taking. So look, if you have a 9 Pro, are you supposed to buy a Pixel 10 Pro? No, not at all, especially with the fact that these things are getting so expensive. Unless you got tons of money, you just want to have the latest and greatest, you should just hold on to that phone. It's really all about now, when you've held on to a phone for enough years that you feel you finally want to upgrade, you can just get access to the latest and greatest that Pixel or Samsung or Apple have to offer. But we cannot expect to get these major changes from camera to camera and from phone to phone now with such quick release cycles. But I do want to hear your feedback as well, so definitely leave those comments below. Let us know what you think about this latest crop of smartphones from Google. Also, do check out the PetaPixel podcast. We're going to be talking about this, I'm sure, quite a bit, and we do have a smartphone roundup coming up once we've tested all of the most recent phones together. Also, do check out the PetaPixel.com memberships. This will get you access to our sample galleries where we have JPEGs and RAW files that you can peruse for yourself and really make judgments for yourself. You also get big discounts on KH.com, big discounts on our merch store, and so much more. And thanks for joining us. We always appreciate when you come back for more. We'll see you soon with more on PetaPixel.